That's right. We're talking rent prices today and what the trends are here in Fort Wayne. I'm joined now by Jon Leckie. He is a researcher at Rent. Jon, how are you? And can you tell us, how these trends are in Fort Wayne? And is there anything that, stuck out to you when you started looking at these numbers?
Yeah, I'm doing well. These rent prices in Fort Wayne are up and up pretty significantly. Rent prices sort of the pattern we kind of saw across the nation was as the pandemic hit, sort of demand for rents for apartments kind of dropped, and prices also sort of remained low for about a year, and then there was a steady rise in Fort Wayne. That rise started about the spring of 2021. It sort of hasn't let up since.
Yeah, and do you think there's a reason behind that?
Well, I think in general, compared to the national average, Fort Wayne is a pretty cheap city. And what we've seen is that people are sort of flocking to a lot of these cheaper cities from more expensive places. Our migration data that we have shows that Fort Wayne is in the positive in terms of attracting people.
Yeah, and, given Fort Wayne has always been kind of known as a cheaper city, we do have a little bit lower rent compared to national, but in some of my past research and data has shown that our wages are also a little bit lower. Do you think that has anything to do with it? How do those two things compare to other cities, do you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think wages are certainly lower than the national average. I think when I looked it up, it was around $45,000 a year, and sort of a bit flat for the last kind of 2 years.
Does this have anything to do with, our current inflation prices right now, too, and everything else kind of getting more expensive as well?
Well, I mean, rents are a factor in inflation, right? So higher rents are going to lead to higher inflation, but that doesn't mean that landlords aren't using inflation as a reason to charge more rents.
Do you see that rent continuing to rise in those more expensive areas, or do you see it dropping anytime soon?
Well, coming into the summer, we had expected by the end of summer for rent prices to start to moderate, right? We would certainly have a higher base level of rent, but the changes year over year would be smaller, right? And part of that was because, you were comparing an elevated market currently to a depressed market sort of in the height of the pandemic. And so that was creating these big percent change differences.
Thanks so much, Jon. I appreciate our discussion and your research that you've done to help give context to our city and where we're at.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.